Hey, I'm Michael, and this is Michael in the Middle. It's an intergenerational relational podcast for people who are interested in better human interaction. I'm glad you're here. Hey, welcome into a very special episode of Michael in the Middle. It's number 23. We were able to sit down together with our sons, Chad, Brian, and Austin, as they had their families in for the last week of December for a few days. We had a great time together, and one of the highlights was being able to sit down with them. These guys that were so fun as they grew up, remembering some great times when they were much younger, and then as they went through their teen years and into college, and now out doing what they do so well in their respective careers. Sarah and I are very grateful, and it was a lot of fun to listen to them talk about it with us here. Thanks to Zach Daniels for taping this back in December, and to Rob Walls, our producer at Varnish Media, for being able to push it out to our various platforms. I'm very honored that so many of you have attached well to what we're trying to do here with Michael in the Middle, and I hope you'll enjoy these next few minutes together. I know I did. I'm especially excited about being able to do this with my three sons. People probably my age or
reference. Yeah. My three sons. I grew up watching that kind of stuff in 1940s, 50s.
It was 60s and 70s.
Well, with your social network, I think it's apropos. So.
But I'm really excited about introducing you to my sons, if you haven't met them before. Sarah and I got married in 1981 and started having kids shortly thereafter. In fact, Chad is seated next to me here. He was born in December of 1982. James Austin is there in the middle, oddly enough, but he's the youngest. He was born in July of 1986. And Brian over there, who's actually been an amazing middle son, he was born in May of 1986. So we got a pretty nice spread of ages here. And I'm so glad that this has worked out. We're out here on the deck again, where several of the episodes have been recorded, so there will be some natural sounds, and apparently some sort of bird has decided to join us for the broadcast here. So don't worry, it's not the equipment. It's nothing at your place of residence or in your car as you're listening. It's just a really happy bird, I guess. So what about that? So what I wanted to do was just take a little time to talk to you guys about what it was like to kind of grow up in a setting where a lot of the things that you guys got to be involved in were sort of predetermined. I mean, you were going to go where we were going for the most part because of work or whatnot, but
not predestined as good Nazarenes.
No. But anyway, it was a lot of fun to watch you guys grow up. You had grandparents around most of the time, and we'll talk about that a little bit too. But I think it'd be good just here at the outset, if you don't mind, just tell the folks what it is that you're currently doing, what your role is, a little bit about your family, and we'll take a run at that just real quick, because I want to get to some stories. But Chad, tell us about where you are and what you're doing.
Well, I currently live in Salisbury, Maryland, the Eastern Shore, which I had no idea existed until I went there the first time to meet Amy, my wife, who I met at Trevecca. And we know a lot of these podcasts are about the connections that we share because Michael's been in the middle of a lot of things. But I'm in Salisbury, Maryland. I work for a company called ABM Industries. I'm the Regional Vice President of Operations for our Mid-Atlantic part of the country. Oversee accounts in our education sector, which was, higher ed and K through 12 school districts. So coming from private liberal arts lineage and school teacher background and all things education, it's been a nice fit. I got to understand what we do from the back office, so to speak, rather than just the facilities management that ABM strives to do. So it's been a relationship business, and I've tried to do the next right thing, and it's kind of worked out for me.
How long have you been with the company?
Since March of 2007.
Nice.
So ABM was acquired the company that I originally worked for, a company called GCA, and they bought GCA back in 2017, and ABM's been good to me, and I feel like I've been good to them.
That's awesome. Brian, what about you?
I'm a senior account manager with Broughton Pharmaceuticals in Savannah, Georgia. Work remotely from home as we live in Sharpsburg, Georgia. With my wife Ashley, our 4 kids, Braden, Tinley, Lennon, and Hazel. And I've been with Broughton for almost 11 years now. After starting out in banking out of college, that was a neat story of networking with Trevecca connections while I was in school, and then my job at Broughton came about by meeting somebody at the bank that just made a connection with, and it led to a business card, which led to an interview, and led to a job that I've been doing for 11 years. I get to help all types of healthcare facilities around the country, and it's 98% relationship based, and it's about making connections and building trust over the phone, over email, and a lot of the people that I have helped through the years, if I walked by them on the street, I wouldn't know them. It's just a really neat business to be in, and I've been able to do pretty well for almost 11 years now.
That's fantastic. All right, man. Austin?
I'm a stand-up comedian and film and television actor. And I went to Trevecca to be a English teacher, and I didn't enjoy much of that, and I switched to mass communications so I could just get out of there, quickly. I went to LA to learn some film school curriculum stuff, and mostly just got into open mic stand-up comedy, and did that for a long time while I temped in various office corporate environments, and did data entry in corporate environments, and I did that full time, and then I did open mic comedy at night while living in LA, and I just gradually got better at that. I got really good at it a couple years in, and then I sort of plateaued for like 8 or 9 years, and then during the pandemic, I started making videos on my phone for social media, and a lot of people found out about me that way, and then I ended up on Saturday Night Live a year and a half ago, and life has been very good and extremely stressful, and mo money, mo problems since then.
Philosopher Puff Daddy.
So it's like really, life is very good right now. We're very, very lucky and very happy, and I work harder and more than I ever imagined I would ever possibly be working. So it's a pretty interesting time right now.
You moved from LA to New York and had a baby, and
Yeah.
I mean, in the middle of all of that, right?
Yeah, we got pregnant in LA and fully figured out how we were going to raise our baby and where we were going to live, and had all that figured out. And then SNL happened, and Becca had to move with me to New York, like 6 months pregnant, and we lived in a hotel, and she was very upset with me, and very pregnant, very hormonal, and it was the middle of the New York winter, and I was learning how to make fun of people in power professionally, and
Totally normal.
it was. I'm one of the only people. I might be the only person with my job. I do a very specific job now, at the only place that I could do it and make any kind of living, and so it's a very interesting job that I have right now.
That's so cool.
But it's tailor-made for me and really fun, and
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I mean, for anybody who knows us, it kind of goes without saying that, you know, your mom and I are super proud of you guys, and the late girls you married are just outstanding, and these grandkids are just so special, and we're very happy about that. One of the things I wanted to talk to you all about what it was like to grow up kind of with you know, not just your mom and me, but the extended family. I know I've talked with you guys about this at different times, but you were around your grandparents a lot, and particularly, you know, poignant for me at this point is that your Mimi Beatrice was really instrumental in your lives when you were very young, and she's still alive at 100 years of age. She's in there. I'm not sure she would get the whole podcast thing if we brought her out to talk, but
She barely understands what I've ever done. I've explained to her how prestigious my current position is, and she's just like, okay.
Yeah.
When are you going to come teach history at a small private school in rural?
She was really upset with me one day when she found you had a book by the name of Detroit Rock City, you know, and what are you
Fargo
doing?
Rock City by Chuck Klosterman.
Okay, there you go.
It's a book of hair metal rock.
Yeah.
We for a while here in Nashville, growing up, we were not just in Nashville with them, we were next door to them, and so it led to weeknight dinners at their house, or
Next door to your mom's parents, yeah.
Yes, to Mimi and Papaw Adams, and you know, Papaw grew vegetables in the backyard. He caught fish out of the creek.
We didn't eat a lot of the fish from the creek.
We didn't eat that.
We ate from the Percy Priest lake fish.
We ate the lake fish.
We didn't eat the river fish.
But I do remember catching a catfish once out of Mill Creek, and that was maybe a one and only.
How big was it?
experience. It was you know, it was a pound or two. It wasn't a monster.
Like that big?
You know, it had some meat on it.
Catfish can be real big and ugly.
Yeah, this was modest.
Yeah, I can't
As far as
imagine it
catfish
growing that big in Mill Creek.
But it led to many many fond memories today of just going out in the creek, turning over rocks to look for crawdads.
Unsupervised.
Unsupervised. You know.
And we have all taken those lessons of how valuable it was to have this free time roaming our neighborhood and the creek, and now watch where our children are 24/7 and don't let them do anything remotely dangerous.
Absolutely.
I think the biggest takeaway from growing up in the Adams shadow and tutelage was the value of contentment. You know, it was a simpler, you know, Brian talked about, you know, some of the things they do in the backyard, gardening or fishing or whatnot, or a simple family dinner. And those are a lot of things that are now foreign in this very hurried society and world we live in. And so I think they really valued time together, and they valued really just a very simple life, and it showed in the way they were able to be generous. They didn't spend a lot on themselves. They tried to lavish other people with their gifts and lavish donations to take care of church and college and all those types of things. They always had a little bit extra because they didn't do those things for themselves, and they're a really good model of being happy with what you have and giving your excess away.
I remember Papa talking a lot about his like conservative financial philosophy, which is he was maybe telling me stuff that I was way too young for. You should. I'm like 8 years old, and he's like, Alston, you should always save 3 years' salary. I'm like, okay. Like, what is that, $120? Yeah, and I don't remember them going on vacation a lot. I think I remember them talking about the 3 vacations they went on for decades after. Like, yeah, we went to China.
Yeah.
You know, like, they talk about that.
Hey, we went to L.A., Lower Alabama, you know, for
that's
Adam's
true.
family reunion. You know.
No, but they weren't luxurious kind of livers in any way.
But they gave us a lot of experiences. We went.
We had great
we went
childhood.
went to Camp Garner Creek many times to shoot bow and arrow and back in the creek there, and you know, we did go out west one time with them on a big fishing trip.
Was that to Colorado?
We stopped in Colorado.
I have very little memory of that, but I know that I was part of it, I think.
The fishing destination was in Wyoming, but we did stop in Estes Park and went down the slides, the carpet slides, and went on Pikes Peak.
So what about the Johnson side of things? What do you remember about some of that?
I remember as a child that Mimi and Granddad traveled a lot with their work in the church. Of course, led to numerous relationships. They knew people everywhere, or you know, and people knew them and admired them. But I remember as a child, you know, they'd come back from a country and bring back souvenirs.
Yeah.
I remember Mimi taking us to baseball card shops, you know, or I remember getting, you know, candy from time to time with her. The funny story that always jumps out to me is I was a big fan of Airheads, grape Airheads to be exact, and they had gone somewhere, I believe in a Native American Indian reservation and brought back arrowheads. And Mimi said,
Were they grape?
Handed me an arrowhead, and I was like, okay.
Oh
And
no!
I bit right into it. And it felt like I'd broken a tooth.
I never knew that.
But
Yeah.
but they always brought back, you know, they traveled the world and met a lot of folks and always brought back a piece to share with us.
Yeah, I remember Mimi Janelle being really like glamorous and vivacious. You know what I mean? She was just like very full of joie de vivre, and seemed like she really enjoyed her life and enjoyed her family, and she was really fun. I always look forward to hanging out with Mimi Jo.
Yeah.
She's just really fun.
Well, Granddad Johnson's here today, and he's almost 86 years old, and you know, it's just interesting to watch the aging process occur. I did a podcast with Granddad back early in the process, and I'm using song titles to title my episodes, and I used "Stop This Train," that John Mayer song, you know, where I looking at my dad, and every now and then I look down at my hands and I think, man, it looks like my dad's hand, you know, what I remember my dad's hand looking like. Because the process of aging and growing and understanding how things are unfolding, you can't stop the passage of time. I mean, I've heard you guys and so many young parents say, man, I don't want to see my kids grow like this. I wish they could stay this age, you know, for a lot longer period of time. And so how are you guys processing?
Well, I didn't get to share. I wanted to share
Oh, you want to say something about the
Granddad.
Johnsons? Yeah, sure.
I there's so many things, and fun, silly, and serious things, but you speaking of his hands, I tried to, as I look back just on these last 40 years and what did I glean and stuff like that, and what's applicable. I guess it's just how my personality works. But Granddad's handshake means a lot to me personally, because I try to shake hands and somebody says, "Oh, you have a strong handshake," and I was like, "Well, my grandfather taught me how to shake a person's hands, you know, anybody's." And he still has that strong handshake right now, and I think anybody that's listening that knows Granddad knows his handshake.
Yeah.
It's the same to everybody, so just want to share that real quick.
Do you know when he was a young man, he shook hands with a preacher friend of his who was several years older, and he grabbed it and squeezed it and shook it and broke one of the guy's fingers.
I believe that.
Yeah.
I believe it.
Yeah.
It is sort of an aggressively dominant male character, isn't it? Come up and immediately be like, I could overpower you. I love the firm handshake thing, and I brought that into my adult life. And when another man opens with the really strong handshake, I'm like, who do you think you are? 'Cause I'm the one with the strong hand. If you reach and hurt my hand before I can get you, or grab 3 fingers of mine, I'm like, I know this trick. I was taught this trick by the best of them.
Yep.
But speaking of the passage of time and aging, I love the passage of time and aging. I think it's awesome that it's really hard to lose weight now in my 30s. I love that the front of my hair is like falling out on HD cameras in front of America every week. I love, putting a little bit of product in my hair and coming back and seeing 40 or 50 hairs stuck to my hands from the texturizing clay.
I mean, Chad wasn't even trying to hide, but
Yep.
I think mine's holding on the longest.
Oh,
and
you
best of
definitely,
everyone's, but
definitely.
I'm still terrified of it because last thing I want to do is look like you three.
Yep. Well, I'm afraid to grow mine out. You get to that awkward phase where you look like a baby bird, so I'm not going to do that. What were you going to say?
I just was, it's just what are you thinking about these days? I'm at almost 63. I'm realizing, and your Uncle Jeffrey's here in town with us right now. Sarah, your mom and I were talking the other day that, we really are at a stage of life where we have to kind of start making the decisions and taking the lead in a family sort of way, and even at work and those kinds of things. I'm definitely one of the senior members of the workforce at Trevecca where I am, and in terms of number of years and even age, and so sometimes I think, like for me, it's like, how long do I have, and what do I want to do with how long I have left, But you guys are at a much different place. I'm bragging on you guys here just a little bit. You're in much better shape to prepare for the future in a lot of ways than I was at your ages. We had a little bit of a slower start in terms of, buying a home and kind of setting things in order financially and all of that. You guys have been able to kind of take care of some of those kinds of things a little bit better. But what are some of the things that you really are wanting to see happen? And it doesn't have to be super serious. What's on your list for the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I'm at a really, Amy and I are in a really good spot. We've got a Reston who's eight, almost 9 years old, who will be in this 2023. And I'm just really focused on being a good husband and dad and son and friend and brother. It might sound a little counterintuitive to what this podcast is about, and I know we're trying to reach a lot of people, but I came across a term in a John Eldredge book this past week called benevolent detachment, and I'm realizing I can't be caught up in everything that's going on or worried about everybody, but in my network, my small network, it's okay to be kind of really good at the relationships that I'm closest to, and so that's really what I'm focused on. I want to do a good job at work, but more important than anything, I want to be famous at home. That's another book that I read this year. But I want Amy, and I want Reston, and I want you guys, and I want a couple of my closest friends to know that if they need something of me, if they need any type of leadership, if they need help in any way, that I have not gotten myself spread so thin that I can't help. And, he's talking to his uncles or me. Your best friends we see as aunts and uncles, and I kind of want that small, interconnected, close network, for Reston and Amy and all of us to be able to rely on. I feel like that's where I'm at.
Yeah. Next 3 to 5 years, I don't really know. It's like I'm in a business that is very transient, and there's a lot of work sometimes, and there's not a lot of work other times. So it's weird. I would just like to have a stable life here in Nashville. With my family, I'm Austin, and then professionally, I use James Austin Johnson as my full name, and I like. You called me James Austin earlier, which I know you had to do that, but I don't like when my family calls me something other than Austin. I don't like when my friends in comedy call me Austin as a joke. I'm like, I like having
Yes.
this life here,
That's
and then
cool.
a professional life that's,
That's
way
cool.
out
When we
there.
saw that firsthand, it was really
The internet.
neat. You know.
Oh yeah, it's nice to.
Yeah, you and Amy got to go see the show, didn't you?
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. We were with Austin in his dressing room, and then with his friends, they didn't know who Austin was, which was pretty cool.
Call me
You've been in that
Jadge.
intentional.
They
Jadge.
call
You
me
know?
Jadge at work.
Jadge.
You mean James? Who's Austin? You know, so it was neat. Yeah, proud of
Yeah,
him.
because I just, it's like it is like a different mode to shift into, and I don't know, I don't necessarily like blending the two all that often, just because it's like when I'm home, I want to be at home, and when I'm in like a professional setting, I want to be that guy. And I also have like a public persona that I operate on the internet and on TV that is different from my personal one, and yeah, so I think I just want to like get a little bit more comfortable at navigating both worlds, and make sure that Homer's being taken care of, and yeah, I enjoy that I'm sort of bi-coastal. Like I live in New York on that coast, and then the beach of Percy Priest Lake here in Nashville. So but also I do want to become a gazillionaire and be really famous, and have 3 wives, live in Arizona where I can have the 3 wives simultaneously. Oh man, that would be awful. I know. I'm sorry if you're watching this and you're from one of those communities that thinks that's cool, but I watched that show on TLC and I'm like, every problem on the show could have been solved by not marrying 4 people.
Good old
I'm
Cody.
sorry if you do that.
Good old Cody.
Yeah, Cody. It's like, oh wow, that guy.
He's got terrible hair too.
Oh, whew. He like curls his hair with like a little curling thing. So yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. Make weird hair decisions and marry 5 strange women.
Sounds like a plan. Oh, I know having 4 children keeps us busy, but
That might be weirder than the 4 wives.
and that's not all, because we have a dog, we have 4 cows, 2 goats, 5 or 6 chickens. Last phone call with Ashley, I think we might be down a chicken. So
And a partridge in a pear tree. That's
Yes.
how you're supposed to finish it.
yes, and so we intentionally did that to have a quiet home where the kids are outside, and we haven't bought eggs in 4 or 5 months, and just kind of somewhat resemblance of life on Mill Creek a little bit. Wanted the kids to have that experience. A dream of sometime in the near future would be to maybe get a little travel trailer to pull behind the truck or SUV, and like the road trips we went on between Nashville and Oklahoma City and Kansas City and Trevecca basketball games, to give that experience to the kids as well. So that's something we would love to make happen, because thinking about Braden being 11 years old, before he's off to college, we have spent more time with him than we will have than we have ahead of us. So wanting to do something, in the next couple of years while we have our 4 children under the roof, and maybe while they're younger, we might even homeschool for a year,
And travel.
or have a balance, spend a few weeks or a couple months out on
That's very
out on
cool.
the road and do it, but still have the home base.
If there's one thing that you would like for people to know about your mom that, let's just say somebody doesn't know your mom, what's one thing that you would, Brian, what's something you would tell people about your mom that you'd want them to know?
I would say that that mom, one, her presence, like she was always there in the middle of everything. She was the only woman in the house, but she was as supportive in our sports and Austin's productions. I mean, we were there every Saturday morning at Janet's Planet. She kept up with.
We were there every Saturday.
I mean, she probably was, right?
I don't think she was either.
But I think about how busy our lives were with our three, us three boys, and how we were involved in various things. But Mom was always, I think about her grading papers and being able to. She just took care of everything, both at work and with us at home.
She had us three, and then she had like 40 or 50 other
kids.
children that she was partially raising on behalf of like the kids who didn't have as strong a foundation as we did and stuff.
Yeah.
That she taught. And yeah, I remember going out to like the mall with like the 4 or 5 kids that won like a day out with the teacher for being good, like in class and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't even know if we can do that anymore, but I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was usually driving the other car, or whatever, and that's really cool.
Another thing we got to do, or at least I know I got to do it a couple times. When I was in first grade, she was teaching first grade. And when she had field trips, I went on the field trips with her class.
Yeah.
You can't do that these days.
Sure.
But I hit it off with Rigoberto and her class, who had some great stories. She always had a neat story. She was always able to be present and be involved, but also be a great observer to bring some good stories home from school.
I mean, obviously, the easy thing is just to come up with a teacher example, and a lot of the examples, I was pretty independent and like to do my own work and have my own space, but there's so many times a lot of vivid memory I remember from just being at home is the time she would take for help Brian be the perfectionist that he is on his spelling tests and his other quizzes. But, after grading papers all night and being at school all day, she'd sit and her and Brian would have a good time doing, studying for the next day. But in another school teacher thing that I think's, a really good characteristic of Mom is that she was always, I don't ever remember her teaching at a school that was in an affluent neighborhood. She was always, she taught at schools that were probably more on the fringes of the town, and people that, maybe that didn't have a great, lower income, didn't have a great family life. And those kids, for the year that they had her, really the 9 months, they really looked up to her as a motherly figure. And they loved, you could tell, even when we go over there after school, that they were very fortunate to be in Mrs. Johnson's class.
Well, this is the kind of thing where it could be a 2 or 3 episode deal, because we could tell stories for another couple of hours. But I think as we kind of come down toward the end of this particular episode, I guess what I would want to say is thank you, to you guys for being who you are and for what you've done. You have been in the middle of doing something good for the sake of the world, and we're super proud of you and thankful for you, and feel incredibly blessed by God to have been your parents and to watch what's happened as you've grown. Any final thoughts?
Well, I think I'll go here. A lot of people ask, where does kind of your success come from, or your work ethic, or the way you go about life? And I don't view, even though I have a job that I think many would think that, it'd be difficult to navigate some of the things that I do, both from a performance and a personality perspective. A lot of the stuff comes fairly natural to me. I don't mean to make light of my responsibilities, but because of the way we were raised, things are either I view are either either do them right or you don't do them at all. And the way that I go about things, it's not that hard to make an informed decision and a good decision, because I've had that good decision modeled so often in front of me by you, Dad, Mom, Mimi and Granddad, Mimi and Papaw. You and I have talked especially about just do the next right thing, and the next right thing has always been fairly evident to me. Like, I don't have to go searching for, what should I do here? That's been something that's been ingrained in us, and I've really appreciated that. And we are, and I'm trying to say this as humbly as possible, but we are blessed, not in the way the world sees blessing and maybe from a financial perspective, but we're blessed in the way that that behavior was modeled to us, and it hasn't been very difficult to tackle. Life's challenges there's been numerous life's challenges, but we've always been able to work through them relatively, strategically and simply because of how we were raised. And I'm very, very thankful of that, and I just want to pass that on to Reston.
Anything else? I know we got kids inside the house ready for lunch and all of that.
I got an idea. What's the last book you read?
Oh, the last book I read.
Yeah, last book you read. What are you reading these days?
Read
guys?
or audio?
Or are reading, or anything. Any interpretation of that question. Run out of time here, Brian.
I know. I mean, the last book that I started and finished, listening, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry.
Read that this year. That's really, really good.
And but picking up a paper book and reading it start to finish, it's very memorable to me. It was one of your recommendations, Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Oh, yeah.
On our way to
YA
Houston.
classic.
And
On many school boards, let's ban it lists this year. And that furor.
Two very different books, but Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, basically, kind of like Chad was talking about, and like I've talked about, of kind of living a simpler, quieter, more focused life. Maybe picking a day of the week that you try to stay off the phone, off the TV, and be present with the family, and just kind of find the things in your life that are taking time, that don't need to take the time.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you had to read that book for that and not the Bible, which has that lesson in it.
Yeah.
It seems like you don't read very often.
There was.
I don't know.
There was a lot.
I want to talk to God about it.
There was a lot of biblical wisdom within the book.
Okay, what book?
I'm reading a book called The Joyous Season right now. It's a Patrick Dennis novel from like the 60s. He was like a humor writer, and a lot of his work is out of print, and there was renewed interest in him in the 90s, and it's just a funny novel from old New York in the 60s. But
Yep.
I'm enjoying it.
I met with a friend earlier this week, and he's republished or bought the rights to publishing to a book called Roaring Lambs. A guy named Bob Briner wrote, and I've got to get back into that. And
Is that Rob Reiner writing under a pseudonym?
no, but easy inference to make.
Yeah. Well, I would say my favorite. I've really gotten into reading this year, and I know that Mom and Austin would be proud of that. I think I did 30 books this year, but I think I'll just say my
More than me.
most impactful book has been John Tyson's The Intentional Father. I guess I read that in tail end of 21, but I reread it, and I've inspired a class I'm leading with some dads and kids, and it's been that book kind of. I don't think my life was totally out of whack, but that changed and refocused. And The Intentional Father. I mean, it truly is that title, and the guy's inspired me. He's a pastor up in New York, and it's a cool dude.
Guys, thanks so much for being willing to do this. I know you kind of did it as a favor to me, but
I was hoping we were going to get asked at some point. So it's nice.
I flew in specifically for this. And I assume there's a check in the mail.
There is, yes,
Okay.
yes. I can write
good.
checks all day long. Folks, thanks for being here with us and for sharing this time. Just find some way to get in the middle of doing something good to help somebody else. That would be a great way to start 2023. We'll see you next time.